This is Keke.
Oh my goodness! Mr. Leo! Hi, Mama. Oh, look at you, you perfect child. He loves you. How are you?
Hello. As you guys may know, I've been a mother for 4 months now, and it has changed my life incredibly. Not just in figure, but personal, career. I mean, in just the way that I look at mothers that have come before me now that I'm finally in their shoes. I mean, motherhood is fabulous, but it also comes with its own unique challenges. And I immediately knew, I think the first week, that most mothers do not get the support that they need, because I found myself to be struggling, and I had family, friends, everyone within arm's reach, and it still was a lot. And as always, when I get into a topic, I have to talk to the best of the best on baby. This is Keke Palmer. So I'm very excited to introduce you guys to my guest today, Madam VP, Kamala Harris. Hello! It is so good to be here with you. Before we get into everything, I just gotta ask, how you doing? What's the tea? How's things been going since I last seen you?
I'm good, honey, but it was the highlight of my day was to meet Leo. Are you kidding? He's just precious.
When I got that call, I think it was, first of all, I don't know how you do all the things you're doing and then you find the time to call us. Literally just a few days after he was born. I'm like, unknown voicemail, who is this? Hello, it's Madam VP Kamala Harris. I'm like, oh my God, tell Leo I welcome. I loved it. It made my heart feel so full that you could even just take time out your busy schedule to say hello to us.
Please, just you are doing your thing in so many ways, and just congratulations to you, to Darius, to that beautiful baby you brought in the world. Congratulations.
Thank you
Truly.
so much. Thank you. God is good.
Every day, all the time.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, the last time I spoke to you, we were at the light year party that you threw with NASA.
Yes.
Uzo was there. We had the screening. It was so
Remember
lovely.
that? Uh-huh.
But right before then, I got it all in the biz, trying to figure out how you deal as a political official.
Yeah.
With having so many different things going on. I mean, there are tons of issues in the world. Half of them's probably in America. But no, in all seriousness, there's a lot of things for you to have to focus on, and you can't do everything at once. And then the one thing or the few things that you focus at, people still can have problems with that.
Yeah.
But you spoke very clearly about the maternal health crisis.
Yes.
And how that was very important for you this term. And I mean, I heard you when we were talking about it then, but now I'm a mother.
Right.
And it's become a very...
Because you weren't even pregnant then when we had that conversation.
I was not.
Right.
I was not. So
That's right. That's right.
It's really become a personal thing for me. So I just want to talk about what makes it a crisis and why, in a world with all these things we have going on, why was this the most important for you right now?
So, first of all, it falls under the umbrella for me of just what are still the failures of our healthcare system as it relates to women's health care. Mm-hmm. And that could be anything from fibroid care,
Yes.
to breast cancer, to maternal health, to reproductive care and access to reproductive care. And so I think of it that way. And the majority of my career I've spent focused on the health, the safety, and the well-being of women and children. I mean, even when I was DA, that was a focus of my work, a main focus of my work was to address abuse against women and children. And so on the issue of the maternal health care crisis, it is truly a health care crisis in America in that we are one of the richest countries in the world, if not the richest. And we have one of the highest rates of maternal mortality in the world. This is completely unacceptable. And when you look closely at the issue, black women are 3 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth than other women.
I gotta understand that, because obviously we could just say, oh, it's racism, right? But how do we break it down? Obviously, I'm sure systemic racism is part of that.
Yeah.
But to what degree, right? Is this, the disparity in the communities? Is this people don't believe black women? Is it, how does it actually contribute to this issue exactly, that we're losing black women like this?
So, to your point, there are a lot of factors, to be sure. But one of the biggest, has to do with the fact that she is a black woman.
I mean, really?
And when she walks into that hospital, that clinic, or that doctor's office, she is not taken as seriously. The facts support the reality, which is that regardless of her socioeconomic or education level, she is still looking at the likelihood that she is more likely to not be taken seriously and to then have outcomes in terms of her health care that reflect that. But there are other things. It's about the stressors, right? So it could be everything from the lack of access to transportation, the lack of access to high quality health care. You know, for example, you look at so many of our women who are in the South, and in particular in rural areas in the South, and healthcare deserts. You look at Texas and Oklahoma as two examples of other areas where in half the counties in Texas and Oklahoma, they don't even have one OBGYN.
So it's not even accessible.
That's exactly right. So there are a variety of factors, but the bottom line is this. The bottom line is that these women should not be dying.
No.
And they should be taken seriously. So a lot of the work that I've done, even when I was in the Senate, was about saying what we need to do to train healthcare professionals to understand the racial bias.
Right, because I mean, we're talking about years of propaganda. You know what I mean? I mean, we've all experienced it as Black women. People have not believed me many times.
Yes.
So to me, it's like, it's interesting to hear you talk about how it's about unlearning and relearning how to humanize the Black woman, which it's insane that we still here at 2023. It's like we're still beating down that same thing, but it's important.
And to also respect the dignity of Black women's bodies and the intelligence of Black women to let you know what they need and then listen to that. And so a lot of the work that I'm doing is about what we need to do to speak truth about this, even though it might be difficult for some people to hear.
Yeah.
And then to act on it, right, with solutions. So part of it is, for example, I love doulas, right? And
Absolutely.
who are predominantly women from the community who have a community care kind of approach to what they do to help pregnant women and women immediately after and shortly after childbirth in giving them a safe place.
Yes.
Where they are treated with dignity, where they are respected, where they're listened to, right? That's so important. I mean, the other piece of this is also to remind our sisters, our cousins, our aunties, our best friends, when you go to speak to that healthcare professional, that doctor or that nurse, require that they answer your questions and know you have every right to ask any question that is on your mind.
Yes, autonomy.
Absolutely right. And it's their job to answer your questions. So know that, and let's support each other in saying, go in that room, and when you go in that room, you ask your questions and require that they're answered. It's about letting folks know when you go into those situations, go, if you need to, with a list ahead of time where you are tracking how you are feeling. Because you will be asked sometimes, and often you will be asked, how's it been? How are you doing? So start keeping a list and notes about how you're feeling. Are you having discomfort? Have you had a fever?
I love
right?
what you
Things
said,
like that.
also speaking about the doula, because this is something that's seen as a specialty, and it should be a necessity. And I think, shout out to Erykah Badu, someone that is in the public eye and pop culture who has constantly normalized the use of that, because that person can't advocate for you if you are afraid to advocate for yourself. So I love how you speak about that.
And also, in the thing that she's been doing and what doulas will advocate for is you as the pregnant person, as a pregnant woman, create a team. And your team will include your doctor and your doula, right?
Yes.
And who will each, and that they should coordinate around each other and respect each other. Part of the work that I did even in the Senate to deal with the racial bias is to say doulas should be part of the trainers for doctors around how to think about how they approach listening and respecting and also understanding.
Because there's two different ways of thinking, right? There's what I've learned and what's in school, or what I was taught, and then there's just what doulas are. There's a lot of it that is instinctual. But I want to go back to something else that we're talking about from the top. why is it important for other people, right? Because a lot of people might say, well, I'm not a woman.
Yeah.
I don't have kids. I'm not a black woman.
Yeah.
Why is this, how is this important to everybody? How is this affecting all of us?
Yeah.
How can we get, how can we help other people understand that this being a crisis, a maternal crisis is a crisis for all?
I mean, just being very frank with you, Keke, I think that we also, all of us, have to agree that we're not going to allow this kind of culture in our country to take hold where the sign of strength is based on who you beat down, instead of we measure your strength based on who you lift up.
You're making me drop my cards? And the reason why is because
You know what I'm saying.
James Baldwin, yes, because
You know
James
what
Baldwin has an incredible, I'm going to butcher the quote, but essentially is
Yeah.
if I serve you poop on a stick and I serve you poop on a plate, it's poop regardless. So yes, just because I'm kicking them down harder, that can either distract you from the fact that I'm kicking you down, or it can scare you so much into submission that you say nothing.
Plus, it's the sign of a coward.
Come on now.
It's
That's
the sign
right.
of a coward. The sign of a strong person is just watch how they lift people up. And so on an issue like maternal health and maternal
Yes.
mortality, it's also about helping people to understand that it's a sign of strength, and certainly I think an attribute of a real leader, to have empathy, which is to have some level of curiosity, concern, and then care for another human being who may be a perfect stranger to you, right?
Yes, and that's what we need more of. That's what we need more of. That's what I feel like, as a black person, even with all that we've endured, I consider myself a patriot. I care about this country.
That's exactly
And I know
right.
that we could do better.
That's right.
So, yes to everything you said, which makes me think about, obviously, June 24th.
Yes.
It's been about a year from now.
Yes, the
Since,
Dobbs decision.
since Roe versus Wade was overturned. I feel like that directly connects to what we're talking about, right? How can we be having a maternal health crisis
Yeah.
and then people saying, have more kids? I mean, but mothers don't have access to doulas. They don't have, it's always breast is best, but you can't get a lactation consultant unless
That's
you're,
right. You are
above
right.
middle class, if
That's
that even
exactly
exists
right.
anymore.
And if you do, and you have to go back to work because you can't afford or you don't have maternity leave that is paid, then you go to work and then you have to deal with a situation where there's nowhere for you to pump, and it is not respected that you might need that time, much less what you might need after childbirth in terms of postpartum care.
Come on.
So all of that,
It's a
and
lot.
that's why these things are connected. Let me tell you something. In the top 10 states that have
No.
the highest rates of maternal mortality are the same states that have banned abortion. So you look at it, and this is where I get quite upset
Yeah.
about the hypocrisy, because the same people who say on the issue of access to reproductive care and the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body, they'll say, because I care about women and children. And you're the same people that are so-called leading a place that has some of the highest rates of maternal mortality. So which is it?
That's how and I don't want to speak for all millennials, but we've seen a lot of things where it's like, oh, that wasn't what we thought it was. Oh, that was. So when we deal with stuff like this, like you said, the hypocrisy that we're seeing yet again from what is a government level, how are we supposed to be hopeful? There's
Yeah.
misinformation out there, and then there's just
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, what do we do when it comes to
Yeah.
what seems so clear? How do we get back excited and involved and say, hey, I can make a difference, I can make a change, when people are obviously doing things that are nonsensical,
So first of all, it means that we can see clearly, to your point, what is happening in real time right now and call it what it is, which is the highest court in our land just took a constitutional right that had been recognized from the women of America, from the people of America. Because what they did with that ruling is they said, essentially, a woman does not have the right to make decisions about her own body. The government will make those decisions about what happens to her body. And here's the thing that I have to say, Keke, because I think it's so important on this subject. One does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree that the government should not be telling her what to do with her body. That's up to her and her pastor, her priest, her rabbi, but not the government telling her what should happen to her body. And so let's call it what it is, right? Which is, this is about going backward.
It is.
You know, we are a country that, you know, my parents were active in the civil rights movement. It's been about fighting for the expansion of rights. And now people are trying to restrict rights, to reduce the rights, and in particular the rights of women to make decisions about their body. Think historically where
it's ridiculous.
That goes, and then where it might go in the future if we don't stand up and activate and understand what's happening right in front of us.
And that's what I want to talk about, right? Because I can go on my YouTube rabbit hole and talk about the reasons as to why and the conspiracies. You know, the kids, we get caught up in that.
Yeah.
But I think my energy should be more focused towards what can I do, right? You know, Mother Teresa says, there can be no great things done, only small things with great love, right? I can't just do that and it's all solved. But Madam VP, what can we do? How can we feel like we have a choice or a say in this? What are the few actions, practical and tangible actions that we can take to say, hey, I made a difference, you know, or I can do something where I'm at, you know, in my backyard.
There are nonprofit organizations that support this issue and support the right of women to have access to reproductive care, and you could get involved in supporting those nonprofit organizations. But ultimately, it comes down to elections, because it is state legislators, it is governors, it is attorney general. If you're in a state that has, and there are states that are saying doctors can go to jail for providing abortion care, then you might want to take a look at any election coming up for who's going to be your prosecutor. And are they prepared to put a doctor or a nurse in jail for giving a woman access to the reproductive care that she requests and desires? So elections matter on this, because ultimately the goal is we need to pass legislation at the federal level that puts back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade. That's the only way we're going to ultimately push down all these states that are criminalizing healthcare providers, that are punishing poor women in particular, because women who live in a state where there's no reproductive health care have to figure out how they can afford to go to travel to another state.
I'm wondering how valuable you think it is when we talk about standing up and you talk about your family's background. If we want to protest, if we want to stand up against this, how valuable is that in a situation like this?
It matters.
How I don't even know if you can speak on this, but how could we activate from that point of view? You know what I mean? To say, hey, I'm not taking it. I've gone through these steps. We've played this game. We've done it your way. We did this dance. Now I'm pissed. Okay?
Right.
So now when I'm pissed, what is the next step?
So it is, for example, anytime you know that there is an organizing event that is taking place.
Okay.
It is about using your social media to make clear to your friends, everybody's got to be active on this, because our lives are at stake. I mean, this is the fact that young women, there are 24 million women approximately in the United States of America who are at childbearing age, who live in a state where abortion has been banned.
That's just crazy.
So 24 million women who could potentially have an unwanted pregnancy and live in a place where they will not have access to care, and where potentially anybody who gives them care could be put in jail. Think about that.
It's horrible.
Think about that. And again, think about, this is something people don't like to hear and discuss, but think about the fact that in a lot of these cases where they've banned access to abortion care, they're also saying there's no exception for rape or incest.
Exactly.
And Keke, just, I specialized in those cases for a while. You're talking about, we got to break this down, right? This is about being real, okay? So she just went through and survived an act of violence to her body, a violation of her body, And then the government is saying, and the next thing that happens to your body, you don't have a choice over.
My mother grew up with a girl in her neighborhood, and she never went to her home. And one time she asked her, let's say her name is Jane. Jane, why we don't never, where you live at? She's like, oh, I live in a group home because I had 3 kids by my father.
Yeah, right. Right.
3 kids?
I know.
By your father?
I know.
So, yeah.
And Keke, that happens more than we talk about. All over our country around child molestation or rape. And here's the thing. Why would you make this person who has suffered and survived such an act continue to suffer because they're unable to exercise self-determination? Part of the movement around progress, whether it be the civil rights movement or anything else that has been about progress, is to say we support and will defend the right for people to have self-determination, which is about the right of people to make and have choices about what happens to them.
I love what you said about getting together and not being afraid to stand and not being afraid to make the hard choices and decisions. You know what I mean? So I know you have a million things to do, and I could talk to you for days. But, at the end of our show, we always play a little game.
Okay.
So I want to play this game with you. It's called
Okay.
Questions That Need to Be Answered, and it's in the ether of the kids. Okay. They want to know these questions from you, Madam VP. And if you don't like them, you can pass.
Okay.
We'll edit it out. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay, question number 1. How many times a month do you get a silk press?
So, I don't use a curling iron. It's too much heat. I use a round brush.
Now, what kind of magical round brush? I mean, your hair must be super fine, Madam VP.
Well, no, it's not.
How do
It
you
takes
do
a
this?
while, a boar bristle, or but it takes a lot of heat. But it's just too much heat to do that and do.
Girl, you have us shook on the internet. We're like, how she always got to say, you and Queen Latifah are going neck and neck with the silk press, honey. You're giving it to us. Okay, so it's a round brush, girls. We've got to get into that. Okay, next one. Now, don't be shy with this.
Okay.
How often do you Uber Eats dinner to the White House? Do you Uber, or are you a DoorDash person? Don't tell me you cooking all the time.
No, but we can't, for security reasons, I can't have deliveries.
They can't even get the people to Uber? None of the door. Oh, girl.
But I do like to cook. I don't cook that often because I
Right.
don't have time. But I love to cook. So
Okay.
Sunday family dinner in particular, it takes a lot for me to not be able to cook Sunday dinner. That means a lot to me.
I love it. Okay,
yeah.
okay, so no Uber Eats. That's a shame. Okay. Well, we know you like to work out. That's when you did we did it, John. So I've got to ask you,
All right, Bess.
what is on your playlist? What are you listening to when you work out?
Here comes another disappointing answer. I'm watching the news because I work out.
It's giving focus.
I work out early in the morning.
Okay.
And that's the time I can catch up on the news before I just hit the streets.
I'm not mad at it. I mean,
Yeah.
the news is entertaining. It
Yeah.
can be scary too. But
It can be
keep you
scary, but it
focused.
kind of gives me an idea of what people are thinking about and talking about that day, and I always want to be aware of that.
I love it. Okay. Obviously, I have to ask this because you are from the Bay Area. So,
Yes.
what is your favorite E40 song? I know you gotta know our good guy. E40.
Oh, I think, let's see. Well, let me say this. I would prefer to talk about Too Short.
Oh!
Okay, wait,
Come
let
on,
me
blow
just,
the
I
whistle
love
now,
E40.
baby.
Now, I love E40. I love everything about E40, but because we're here in D.C., my cousin's son is going to start going to Howard.
Ooh.
And from Oakland. And I was reminded of the fact that, so I would take full credit for bringing my bootleg tapes
Yes.
of Too Short to Howard University so that all my friends from like Chicago and Philly, I turned
Come
them
on.
on to Too Short.
Yeah, Too Short, do not show up on the Madam VP doorstep, okay? She don't need that. Last one.
Oh, I saw him though recently. He was here at the White House.
You're kidding? Oh my
I
gosh, I
did.
love that.
Uh-huh,
Yes. I mean,
uh-huh.
he's everything.
He is everything.
Last one. because, you know, we love getting into your fashions, okay? You always get a nice suit, but you're also casual, too, at the same time. We like the
Yes.
Converses. Will we ever get a Madam VP Converse line?
Oh, that's interesting. I do love my Converse.
I mean, you wear them well.
I have all kinds of different colors and high top and low top. I prefer the low top. If I did, I'd probably want like a freedom line, you know, right?
Yes.
Can you see that?
Absolutely.
It would be freedom would be on the Converse. You know, freedom to be, freedom to.
I am free.
Right. I am free. Free to march. Free to walk my talk.
Madam VP Kamala Harris's
Freedom line.
Freedom line. I don't need much, just a little finder's fee. I'm here for that line, and I'm here for you. And I thank you so much for your time.
Keke,
We're so
thank you.
happy to
I'm
have you.
so happy to be with you.
Please keep
Thank
killing
you.
it and doing what you're doing because we need it, you know?
We're all in this together.
Yes.
We really
Come
are.
on, High School Musical.
We are
I
all
love
in
it.
this together. Seriously.
Yes, we are.
I just think there's so much about this moment where you do this so beautifully, which is to remind people they're not alone, you know? That's so important. And it's a great gift you give, and thank you for that.
Thank you. God
Thank
bless you.
And
thank
you. And you.
Baby, this is